The silent plea. The galaxy was silent. It was not the silence of peace, but the silence of fear. The stars still burned, the planets still turned, but across countless worlds, people waited in dread. An empire of cruelty was moving, and nothing seemed strong enough to stop it. The enemy was known as the Corthan Dominion. They were vast, ruthless, and merciless. World after world had fallen before them, their cities turned to ash, their people enslaved. Every race that resisted was broken, and every race that surrendered was chained. The galaxy had seen many wars before, but never one so one-sided, never one so hopeless. In the great council of free races, leaders from dozens of species gathered. Their voices were low, their eyes hollow with fear. They had sent pleas for help. Across every corner of space, they had begged allies, neighbors, even enemies to stand with them against the Dominion. But no one came. Not a single fleet answered their cries. Some spoke of surrender. Others spoke of fighting until the last breath. But deep inside, they all knew the truth. They were alone. Yet among their whispers, one name kept rising, a name spoken with both hope and doubt. Humanity, Earth, the Terrans. No one in the council truly knew what Earth was planning. For decades, the humans had been quiet, hidden behind their borders. Some believed they were too weak, too young to matter. Others believed the silence of Earth meant they had already fallen to fear. And a few, just a few, believed the silence meant something else, that Earth was waiting. The council's high chamber echoed with arguments. An elder from the Solari cried, "If we wait for humans, we will wait for nothing." A young warrior from the Arvek shouted back, "Better to die hoping than to kneel without trying." The chamber split, voices rising, the fear of extinction pressing on them all. Meanwhile, across the free worlds, the common people prayed. On ruined moons, refugees huddled together, whispering. Stories of Terran courage in crowded stations. Children asked their parents if the humans would come, and always, the same answer came back. "I do not know." The Dominion fleets drew closer with each passing day. Scouts reported whole systems burning, their defenses crushed in hours. The council worlds knew they were next. The stars above them felt colder, heavier, as if even the universe was holding its breath. Then one night, the sensors of an outlying station detected something. It was faint, almost too faint to notice. A pulse of energy, deep in the void. Different from Dominion signals. Different from anything the galaxy knew. The officer on duty froze, staring at the screen. It looked human, but he could not believe it. Humans had not sent out signals in years. Could it truly be them? The officer sent the report to the council. Many dismissed it as static. Others saw in it the first spark of hope. For the first time in months, arguments in the chamber grew sharp with something new. Not just fear, but anticipation. Still, doubt lingered. If the humans were coming, why had they taken so long? Why had they let so many die? Was this a promise of aid, or only an echo of a civilization that no longer cared? In the refugee camps, word spread quickly. "Earth has heard us," they whispered. Children clung to the hope like light in darkness. Elders shook their heads but dared not crush the dream. Even if it was false, it was something to hold on to. Benumdur. Dominion, meanwhile, laughed at the news. To them, humans were nothing, a minor species hiding behind bluster and stories. Their commanders mocked the council, saying no savior would come. But still, some of them watched the void with unease. For in every tale of conquest, there was always a turning point. And deep inside, even the Dominion feared the unknown. The galaxy waited. Worlds on the edge of collapse held their breath. All across space, silence pressed down like a weight. It was the silence before surrender, the silence before extinction, and perhaps the silence before something greater. For in the endless night, where stars shone like distant eyes, the faint signal repeated, steady and unbroken. The council could not ignore it. The people could not forget it, and far away, beyond their sight, engines stirred. Something was moving in the dark, something vast, something powerful. And the galaxy, waiting in silence, prayed that it was humanity. The doubt of the council, The council chamber was filled with voices. The great hall, carved into the floating citadel of Veyran, shimmered with light from the stars beyond. Dozens of species sat in circles of stone and crystal, their eyes heavy with exhaustion and fear. The signal report had shaken them, but it had not united them. Static, one elder muttered, his voice brittle with age. It is nothing but static. Hope, shouted another, younger and louder. Hope is what it is. The arguments raged like fire across the chamber. Each voice desperate to be heard. Some believed humanity had finally answered. Others believed it was a cruel illusion, a trick of the void. The high speaker, a towering figure with translucent skin, raised his long hand. Silence, he commanded, and the voices fell quiet. We are divided, and in our division the Dominion will destroy us. His eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the fear of every delegate present. Shall we place our survival in the hands of a race that has hidden in silence? From the opposite side of the chamber, an Arvek warrior stood, her armor scratched from old battles. Better to risk hope than to kneel to chains, she cried. Have we forgotten what humanity is? They are reckless, unpredictable, but they fight, always they fight. Her words echoed, stirring unease. Many remembered old rumors, whispers of Terran victories and forgotten wars, but no proof had ever come. The humans were a shadow, a question mark in the galaxy. The Selari elder shook his head, his tendrils trembling. Stories, he hissed, stories told to children to make them sleep. Humanity is weak, small, and alone. They cannot stand against the Dominion. His words cut through the chamber like cold steel. Some nodded, weary and hopeless. Others clenched their fists in quiet defiance. While the council argued far across the stars, ordinary people clung to the rumor of the Terran signal. In hidden colonies, they carved the word Earth into walls as a sign of faith. On broken ships drifting in refugee convoys, children painted crude stars and called them Terran guardians. The hope spread like wildfire, and with it, the doubt. For every voice that cried, "They will come," another whispered, "They will not." Back in the chamber, an envoy from the Krelin rose, his scales shimmering under the council lights. He spoke with calm words, though his eyes showed fear. The Dominion draws closer. We have days, not weeks. If we wait for humans, we may wait for nothing. Should we not prepare for surrender instead of chasing dreams? The hall grew still, his words carrying the weight of despair. For many, surrender meant life, though life in chains. For others, surrender meant dishonor worse than death. The debate stretched for hours. Each side refusing to yield. At last the high speaker spoke again. Until proof is found, humanity cannot be our plan. We must prepare to fight or fall. If Earth comes, they will find us still standing. His words tried to sound strong, but they rang hollow. Most knew their fleets were broken, their armies scattered. If the Dominion attacked in full force, they could not stand alone. But deep in the shadows of the chamber, a quiet figure watched, an alien envoy, wrapped in dark robes, spoke softly to those who would listen. I have seen them, he said. I have seen Terran ships training in silence. I have walked on their border stations, and I tell you, they are not asleep. They are preparing. Few believed him, but his words lingered like a seed planted in desperate soil. Could it be true? Were the humans waiting for the right moment to strike? Outside, the stars glowed cold. The Dominion's fleets continued their march, crushing resistance wherever they found it. Every day, another world burned, another people lost. The council counted the days, the hours until their turn would come. And always, the question whispered in every corner. Would Earth answer, or would silence be the only reply? On the edge of council space, a scout ship drifted in silence, its crew staring at the black void. The pilot swore he saw a shadow, vast and slow, moving between the stars, a shape too massive for any known fleet. His sensors caught a flicker of power. Then it was gone, the crew argued. Was it real or a dream born of fear? But the report was sent. Another spark of mystery in the growing storm. Back in the chamber, the council gathered once more. The signal, the rumors, the sightings, all weighed heavily upon them. They could not agree, they could not unite. The galaxy trembled, divided between despair and fragile hope. The Dominion was coming. The free worlds had days left at most, and as the delegates left the hall, one thought burned. In every mind, if Earth was truly preparing, they must act soon, or all hope would be lost. Shadows before the storm. The stars above the free world seemed darker than before. It was as if the universe itself knew what was coming. The Dominion fleet spread across space like a plague, their banners shining red against the black. Each day they crushed another world. Each day they sent more refugees running into the void. The Council's pleas for unity had failed. The races were divided, broken by fear. Some still clung to hope that the humans would appear. Others cursed the very name of Earth, calling them cowards for staying silent. And while the Council argued, the shadows of war grew longer. On the outer colonies, people watched the skies in terror. The Dominion sent scouts not only to spy but to taunt. Small ships flew over settlements, dropping messages of doom. "Submit to the Dominion," the broadcast said. "Your resistance is nothing. No one will come to save you." The words spread like poison, breaking spirits. Families packed their belongings and fled, leaving behind cities that had stood for centuries. Refugee ships filled the star lanes, desperate to reach safer ground. But safety was a lie. Everywhere they fled, the Dominion followed. Some convoys vanished, pulled into the dark by enemy warships, their screams lost to the stars. Others swore they saw flashes in the void, lights too vast to be Dominion weapons, strange and fleeting, as if shadows of a great fleet were moving unseen. In a hidden station near the border, a young scout sat staring at her screens. For hours, she had tracked faint energy trails too faint to be normal fleets. Her commander dismissed them as errors, but she knew deep in her bones that these were no errors. The trails were sharp, deliberate, and old records matched them to Terran drives. She sent her report in silence, her heart pounding. Was this proof? Was humanity moving at last? Yet the report never reached the Council. Somewhere in the chain of command, it was buried, some said. Dominion spies erased it. Others whispered that powerful voices within the Council feared the truth. If the humans were indeed preparing, what would that mean for the balance of power? Meanwhile, the Dominion continued its storm. In one system, they destroyed the defenses in a single strike. In another, they captured entire populations, sending them into the abyss as slaves. They mocked the Council, broadcasting images of burning cities. "Where are your allies?" The Dominion's message thundered. "Where are your saviors?" The words cut deep. Even the strongest leaders began to doubt. On the refugee ships, despair mixed with fragile hope. Children still whispered about the humans, drawing crude pictures of giant ships. Elders shook their heads but allowed the stories to spread. For sometimes, a dream was stronger than truth. And even if Earth never came, the idea of them gave courage to face another day. But in the shadows of the galaxy, more signs appeared. Cargo fleets disappeared without trace. Fuel depots near Terran space reported sudden shortages. Merchants spoke of secret purchases of weapons and raw materials, and always the whisper followed. "It is them. It is Earth. They are moving." In the Council chamber, arguments turned to anger. The Solari elder demanded surrender. The Arvek warrior shouted for resistance. The Kreelan envoy begged for patience. And over them all, the High Speaker tried to keep order. But no order could hold when death loomed so near. The Dominion's fleets were only days away. The Council knew their defenses would not last. Then came a rumor, a story so wild that no one knew whether to believe. A traitor claimed to have seen them. He swore by his ship's honor that he had watched massive silhouettes drifting in the void near Terran borders. "Ships larger than anything I have ever seen," he whispered. Silent, waiting, watching the stars. The chamber laughed at him, mocked him as a fool. But deep in their hearts, many felt the spark of fear and hope. For if it was true, if humanity truly had built such ships in silence, then the galaxy was on the edge of something greater than anyone imagined. But if it was false, then it was only another cruel dream. Another illusion before the storm. As the Dominion fleet moved closer, planets dimmed their lights, hiding in the dark. Families huddled together. Leaders prayed in silence. The galaxy trembled, waiting for the blow to fall. And somewhere, in the deep black where no Dominion dared to look, engines stirred. The storm was not only coming from the Dominion. Another storm was rising, silent, unseen, and far more powerful. The galaxy waited. The galaxy feared. And the shadows whispered that humanity was not sleeping. They were watching. They were moving. And when they finally struck, the stars themselves would shake. The whisper of engines. The void was never truly silent. Ships moved. Stars burned. Comets streaked across the dark. Yet now, across the edge of Terran space, a different kind of silence grew. It was heavy, tense, like the moment before thunder. Refugees fleeing the Dominion began to whisper of strange sightings. In hyperspace lanes, they reported shadows moving faster than any known fleet. Great silhouettes slipped past, their lights dimmed, their engines quiet. No signals, no flags, no identification, only the silent passing of giants. Some swore they saw the glint of steel. Others said they heard the faint hum of engines even. Through the void, and always the same question spread. Was it Earth? The Council dismissed most of these reports. To them, they were stories born of fear. But the people believed in the camps. They began to chant quietly. The Terrans are coming. Mothers whispered it to their children. Fathers whispered it to their families. It became a prayer carried across the stars. In the hidden chambers of the Council, however, things were changing. A sealed message arrived, carried by a ship with no markings. The guards scanned it. The diplomats argued over it. But once it was opened, silence fell over the room. The message was short, only 2 words. Hold line. No signature, no crest, only the unmistakable seal of Earth's ancient code. The Council stared at the words, some trembling with hope, others with fear. What does it mean? Demanded the Solari elder, his voice shaking. It means wait, replied the Arvek warrior, her eyes burning. It means they are coming. But others argued it was a trap, a trick by the Dominion. The chamber nearly collapsed into chaos again. Yet for once the High Speaker said nothing. He simply stared at the glowing words, repeating them softly. Hold line. Meanwhile, the Dominion prepared their final strike. Their fleets gathered. On the edge of Council space, their numbers stretching across the horizon. Their commanders laughed at the thought of resistance. To them, the war was already won. But even they felt uneasy, for their scouts had reported strange activity. Entire sectors near Terran borders had gone quiet, trade routes empty, stations abandoned. It was as if the humans were sweeping the board clean, preparing for something vast in the dark halls of the Dominion flagship. One general sneered, "Humans are nothing. They hide in their corner, they will not come." But another older commander frowned. "They hide, yes," he said, "but sometimes the quietest shadows strike the hardest." Back on the free worlds, defenders prepared their last stand. Ships were patched together, soldiers armed with old weapons. Every able being was called to fight, though most knew it would not be enough. Still, the Council spread the message quietly. Hold the line. They did not admit the source, they did not dare, but hope had returned, however fragile. In one refugee convoy, a boy asked his mother if the humans were real. She smiled weakly and said, "When the stars shake, you will know." Her words spread through the ship, through the fleet, through the galaxy itself. It became a promise. The whisper of engines became the heartbeat of hope. Days passed. The Dominion drew closer. The Council grew restless. Some demanded to reveal the message, to show the people the proof. Others feared it would backfire if Earth did not come. Then hope itself would destroy them faster than the enemy. But in the camps and colonies, whispers spread anyway. Every traveler, every merchant, every scout carried the rumor. Earth had spoken, the Terrans had said. Hold line. On the edge of Council space, where starlight dimmed into shadow, sensors caught brief flashes too fast to identify. Engines stirred, faint vibrations rippled through the void. Then silence again. The galaxy leaned forward, waiting. The storm was almost here. The Dominion was ready. The Council was divided. And somewhere, hidden deep in the black, humanity was moving. The engines whispered. The void trembled. And for the first time in living memory, the Dominion wondered if they should be afraid. The first light. The last free capital world, Avalor, was drowning in fear. Above its surface, defense fleets hovered like fragile sparks, a thin wall of ships against the coming storm. On the ground, billions of people looked to the sky, knowing it might be the last sky they would ever see. The Dominion arrived without mercy. Their armada stretched from horizon to horizon, crimson banners glowing across the black. The thunder of their engines shook the void. Their commanders sent a single message to the defenders: kneel or burn. The Council had no reply. Their fleets were too small, their weapons too weak. Still, they formed lines, trembling but ready. They had been told only one thing by the whisper of Earth: hold line. The first wave began. Dominion ships surged forward, firing blasts that tore through shields and split frigates in half. Explosions lit the sky, burning streaks of fire falling onto Avalor's surface. The defenders fought bravely, but for every Dominion ship destroyed, 10 more came. Hope crumbled with every passing minute. On the ground, families clutched each other, listening to the rumble of war above. Children asked, "Where are the humans?" No one had an answer. The high speaker stood in the command chamber, his hands trembling. "We cannot last another hour," he whispered. Some urged surrender, others urged retreat, but both were impossible. There was nowhere left to run, nowhere left to hide. Then, as the Dominion prepared their killing blow, the void itself shifted. At first it was only a shimmer, like heat rising on desert sand. The Dominion commanders laughed, thinking it was failing shields, but the shimmer grew, spreading across the stars. The airless sky rippled as if something vast pressed against it, and then it broke, with a roar that shook every sensor, every ship, every heart. Hyperspace tore. Open from the wound in the void came light, blinding, brilliant, unstoppable. And within that light, the first Terran dreadnought emerged. It was enormous, larger than any ship the galaxy had ever seen. Its hull gleamed with silver steel, etched with marks of Earth. Behind it came another, then another. Dozens, then hundreds. The void filled with Terran warships, carriers, battleships, cruisers, stretching into infinity. The Dominion froze, their laughter dying in their throats. For the first time in centuries, fear gripped their hearts. On Avalor's surface, people screamed and wept as the sky lit with new fire. "The humans," voices cried. "The humans have come." Defenders who had given up their courage found it again. Their broken lines held steady. Hope, sharp and sudden, returned like a blade cutting through despair. The first human dreadnought fired. A single beam of pure energy cut across the void. It split a Dominion battleship in two, the explosion echoing like thunder. Another blast followed, then another. The Terran fleet moved as one, precise and merciless. Every strike tore through Dominion ships like paper. The storm had shifted. The hunted had become the hunters. In the council chamber, silence reigned. As they watched the impossible unfold, for months, for years, they had begged for help, and at last it had come. The Arvek warrior slammed her fist on the table, tears burning in her eyes. They came, by the stars. They came. Even the Solari elder, who had doubted until the end, could only whisper, "Humanity." The Dominion commanders shouted in panic, ordering counterattacks. Their fleet swarmed against the humans. But the Terran Armada moved with discipline, born of years of preparation. Every formation was perfect, every strike devastating. The Dominion was strong, but they had never faced Earth silence, and Earth silence had not been weakness, it had been waiting on the ground. People pointed to the sky as Terran carriers unleashed smaller craft. Sleek fighters streaked through the void, weaving between enemy lines, cutting them apart. The stars themselves seemed to shake under the power of the Terran entrance. Every Heart that had waited in despair now beat with pride. The universe would never forget this moment. The first light of Earth had arrived, and with it the tide of the war had turned. The Dominion tried to rally. They launched their heaviest warships, their most powerful weapons. But nothing stopped the storm of Terran fire. One by one, their fleets broke. One by one, their ships fell. And in their fear, their commanders realized the truth. The silence of Earth had been a warning, and now that silence was broken, the galaxy would never be the same again. The Armada shakes the stars. The first Terran dreadnought had fired, and the void itself seemed to tremble. But that was only the beginning. Behind it, ship after ship poured from hyperspace. A river of steel, endless and unstoppable. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Thousands of Terran vessels stretched. Across the horizon, colossal carriers, sleek destroyers, towering battleships, and dreadnoughts so massive they cast shadows on the very stars. Their engines burned bright. Their weapons glowed with restrained fury. They moved in perfect formation, each ship a part of a greater whole. This was not chaos. This was not desperation. This was order, discipline, power. The Dominion, so used to being the predator, faltered. Their commanders barked orders, sending fleets to strike, but the humans answered with fire. Every Terran ship unleashed weapons the galaxy had never imagined. Beams of energy that split cruisers apart, missile storms that erased entire squadrons in seconds. Fighter wings darted through, the chaos striking with precision, leaving trails of burning wreckage behind them. On Avalor's surface, the people looked up in awe. They had expected to see their skies burn with defeat. Instead, they saw the dawn of vengeance. Children cried out in joy. Warriors shouted in triumph. The humans had not just come. They had come prepared to win. The Dominion's numbers were vast, but their formations broke under the storm. Terran fleets carved through them like blades through water. Every attempt to regroup was shattered. Every counterattack crushed. The void echoed with explosions, the stars themselves seemed to shake. And still more Terran ships arrived. The silence of Earth had been nothing more than the sound of gathering thunder. In the council chamber, the delegates wept openly. For so long they had doubted, for so long they had feared. Now they witnessed salvation. The Arvek warrior stood tall, her voice trembling as she said, "This is no fleet, this is a force of history." The High Speaker nodded, unable to speak, his eyes filled with the reflection of Terran fire. The Dominion commanders panicked. They hurled their strongest warships into the fight, colossal flagships, armed with weapons that had conquered countless worlds. But against the humans, they were nothing. Terran dreadnoughts met them head-on, shields glowing with brilliance. When the first Dominion flagship exploded under human fire, the galaxy gasped. When the second fell, even Dominion soldiers began to doubt. When the third vanished, in flames, fear turned into terror. On the battlefield, the humans showed no mercy. They moved with purpose, each strike calculated. They did not waste words. They did not send threats. They only sent fire. And the fire shook the stars among the Dominion ranks. Whispers spread like cracks in glass. "Who are these humans?" they cried. "How did they build such power in silence?" None had answers, only fear. For every Dominion soldier realized the same truth. The age of their dominance was ending. Back on Avalor, soldiers who had prepared to die now charged into battle with new courage. Alien fleets once broken now surged forward under Terran cover. For the first time in years, they believed victory was possible, and belief turned into strength. Side by side with humanity's armada, they fought not as victims, but as allies. The Dominion tried to retreat. Their admirals screamed for withdrawal, but the humans gave no escape. Terran ships closed every path, sealing the enemy in a cage of fire. One by one, Dominion fleets were torn apart. The galaxy watched in silence, unable to look away. Every world, every race, every being understood the same thing at last. The humans had not hidden in fear. They had hidden in preparation. And when their moment came, They struck with the fury of 1,000 storms. The stars shook, the Dominion burned, and across the galaxy, the legend of humanity was born anew. The dawn of humanity's era? The battlefield above Avalor was no longer a place of despair. It was a sea of fire and light, where once the Dominion's banners had shone red, now wreckage drifted, burning slowly as the void consumed it. The mighty empire that had enslaved worlds and crushed nations trembled for the first time. Humanity's armada stood unbroken. Thousands of Terran ships filled the stars, their formations still sharp, their weapons still burning. The Dominion had thrown everything they had into the storm, but nothing had stopped the humans. Every counterattack shattered, every flagship destroyed. The silence of Earth had been broken, and it had broken the Dominion with it. On Avalor's surface, the people poured into the streets. Their eyes lifted to the sky. They wept, they shouted, they prayed. The humans had come. The words spread like wildfire through the camps and colonies. From world to world, voices cried out in joy. Earth answered, they said. Earth has saved us. In the council chamber, the delegates stood in stunned silence. For months they had argued, doubted, and feared. Now there was no doubt. Humanity had revealed itself, and it was greater than any of them had imagined. The Arvek warrior raised her sword high and declared, "The age of submission is over. The age of humanity has begun." Her words echoed through the chamber, not as fear, but as hope. Even the Silari elder, who had called Earth weak, lowered. His head in shame, he spoke softly, almost to himself. "We thought their silence was cowardice, but it was strength. We thought they had forgotten us, but they were preparing for us." No one corrected him, for it was true. Above, the last Dominion fleets tried to scatter into the void, but Terran ships pursued them relentlessly. There would be no escape, no second chance. The hunters had become the hunted, and the galaxy watched as the empire that once seemed eternal was torn apart in a single night. Yet the humans did not celebrate. They did not send words of triumph. They did not claim thrones or demand worship. They only hovered in silence. Their vast armada spread across the stars like gods who needed no recognition. It was their presence, alone, that spoke, a presence that said, "We are here, we are ready, we will not be ignored again." The galaxy trembled, not with fear, but with something new, with respect, with awe, for every race now knew what humanity truly was, not a small, weak world, not a forgotten people, but a force that had waited in silence and then risen like a storm. On the ground, a refugee girl clutched her mother's hand and asked, "Will the humans stay?" Her mother knelt, smiling through tears. "They do not need to stay," she said. "The galaxy will never forget what they did." The council sent envoys, desperate to speak with Earth, to thank them, to ally with them, to understand them. But the Terran fleet gave no reply. They simply turned in unison, their engines flaring one by one. The ships vanished into hyperspace until only silence remained. The same silence that had haunted the galaxy before. But now, it was different. Now it was the silence of power, the silence of choice. The message was clear. Humanity would not be commanded, humanity would not be summoned like servants. They had come when they chose, and they had saved the galaxy on their own terms. And the galaxy, for the first time in ages, accepted that truth. Legends were born that day. Songs were written, stories told. Children grew up whispering of the night the humans arrived, the night the stars shook, the night the Dominion fell, and above every tale was the same ending. This was only the beginning. For deep in the shadows of space, where the Terran fleet returned to silence, engines still whispered, weapons still burned, and humanity, once quiet and overlooked, had stepped into its true place. The dawn of a new era had come, and it belonged to Earth,